All right, joining us now. It's an honor to have both of these young ladies here on the show, folks. Two legends at UCLA. Of course, she's entering her 16th season as the Shelly Carlin UCLA head coach. I speak of Kelly Inouye Perez, and of course, Shelly Carlin. We just heard that name. She's with us. She was part of the 1982 National Championship team. Welcome, both of you. We're going to start with that new title, Coach, that you have, because this is historic for those that missed it. On December 21st, Shelly Carlin committed $1 million to the head softball coach endowment designed to make a major, everlasting positive impact on UCLA softball and student athletes. This is part of the big UCLA Women of Westwood moment. We're in the 50th anniversary of Title IX, which we'll get into. But I want to start with you, Shelly. What kind of motivated you to make this move? It's not the first time you've obviously donated to UCLA, but this is a special moment here.
It's absolutely a special moment, and thanks for having us both on. I'm a fan of the podcast, so it's really an honor to be here. What motivated me? I mean, it's just what Bruins do, I guess. I've been engaged with this program, obviously, since I was a player, but, I've been thinking about this and talking with UCLA about it for a while. Nobody achieves their success alone, and in my case, that's absolutely true. UCLA kind of changed my life. I grew up in a very small town in Central California. Nobody in my family had gone to college, and I had the opportunity to play softball and get a world-class education. And it put me where I am today. And it was just time to make that statement. With the 50th anniversary of Title IX coming up, no better time to recognize and support the program than now. So it's been a long time coming, but I'm thrilled. And not the least of which is I get to always have Kelly have my name attached to her as a former player, and Kelly a former player. That's kind of fun as well.
Yeah, catcher to catcher too. Both
catcher to catcher, exactly.
Oh, nice immediate bond. Coach, what was your reaction once this went down?
Oh, I think so many emotions. First and foremost, I'm honored and so proud to be a part of this Bruin family. I'm a very unique coach to be able to be a player, assistant, and head coach, and really help grow the program, but be so proud to be a part of something that's bigger. And I think our biggest strength and our biggest, probably the most enjoyable part of being a Bruin is the Bruin bubble, our Bruin family. And, we talk about the experience, come to UCLA, have a great experience on the field. Shelly won a championship. I was fortunate to win a championship, but it's being able to go beyond the white lines and continue to be successful. And it's what Shelly has done. But then ultimately to be able to come back and give back is a huge statement of gratitude. And so for me, I'm so proud to see a Bruin who had exactly that experience, came in, got it done on the field, got it done beyond the white lines out there in the working world, but then to have the ability to come back and have an impact like this is such a statement to all the alumni, our current Bruins, and our future recruits of what this UCLA experience is all about. It's more than just winning natties. And we are a family, and that's what makes me most proud about all of this, is she truly represents what this Bruin experience is all about.
No doubt. And Shelly, speak to that, the Bruin bubble, as Coach mentions. How much was that a part of this, making this? I mean, and knowing Kelly, who has been a player, been assistant, been a head coach, bleeds this program, bleeds the colors, and probably has blue if you kind of have some blood come out of her. How much did that make it easier, inspired you to make this move, knowing of the people involved?
Oh, it's everything. I mean, I've been involved with the program for, the better part, Kelly, maybe 10, 15 years in lots of capacities, donor, but also doing educational programs for the student athletes. So it was a natural progression, and it felt right. It felt special. It felt, as I said, it's just kind of what we do. And it was really, really important to me to make this and connect this with the UCLA Title IX Women of Westwood campaign, because the softball has been a leader on campus in terms of national championships, but it's also been a leader in terms of giving back. And so we were very proud. I was very proud that our gift is the first one that was announced after that Women of Westwood campaign was launched. So couldn't be more thrilled. And I also bleed blue and gold as well. So it's just a thrill. It's an honor.
And then, Coach, you get to now be the first to be the Shelly Carlin UCLA head coach title. there comes responsibility with that too.
Oh, well, as I said before, I am fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to be the third head coach in UCLA softball history. But it's an honor to be able to represent something that's bigger than me. So when you talk about the responsibility, my job is to be able to continue to create a quality experience, keep our priorities straight. It's the people, the family experience, and the alumni and the families that are the biggest priority. It's what you're a part of. We're not just Bruins for 4 years, we're Bruins for life. And the degree is a big part of what the whole experience is, because that degree and those 4 letters are going to say something, that you took a harder path in life to be able to achieve excellence. And that's what UCLA is all about. And then softball is just what we love to do. Softball, I'm fortunate to recruit a higher level athlete that has a great work ethic, very talented, but also understands the concept of team. So, when you say it's a responsibility, I mean, I have the greatest job in the world. I'm recruiting elites. I'm surrounded by elites. The expectations, and I say this to the girls all the time, there's the only expectations that really matter are our own, and our job is to represent UCLA, both on and off the field. But so for me, it's an exciting opportunity. It's not a pressure, it's a privilege to be able to pull this together and to be able to sustain the program. I think, Shelly and I have talked a lot about the ability to sustain excellence. Yes, we've achieved it. And yes, we are the winningest in the history of our sport. And the fact that we're still here is we are the only program to sustain over 5 decades of winning championships in every decade. And so there's a uniqueness about us that is our hope and goal, is to continue to be relevant, to continue to sustain excellence. And once again, what Shelly is an example of, it's not just about winning natties, it's sustaining excellence beyond the white lines. So to go back, one of the cool things about what Shelly did is she is the largest donation from a former female student athlete in the history of UCLA. That's big time. And the cool part is Shelly has, as she has said, she's been a part of the program since I've taken over before I was the head coach, but obviously even more so, I've been fortunate. She's been a really big sister to all of us in my experiences during my head coaching tenure. So the girls have looked at her as she's an alum, she's a big sis, she's cool, she's with it, she comes back, yeah. We know she's done great things. And when she makes a statement like this, they're like, wait a minute, what did she, I mean, what exactly did she, and so there's an opportunity for them to also use her as a resource, as a mentor, to be able to strive towards being like Shelly. I want to do that. I want to be able to. So she has the ability to come back and inspire and mentor our girls on how to sustain excellence, both on the field and how they relate, right? Being a softball teammate, being a Bruin, the expectations, the work ethic, the teamwork, how that translates into the working world. She is such a valuable resource. And she just put an exclamation mark on, yeah, when you do this, then these great things can happen. And then you can do what you want later in life, as she celebrates moving back to SoCal in a nice little house in, the Venice.
Yeah, just moved back to LA. But I also want to make another point on this, because women's athletics, really started in earnest with Title IX. And I was fortunate to be at the right time, the right place. I started my freshman year in high school when Title IX kicked in. And so it's been a long time. And it's time for those of us who benefited from those early years of Title IX, not just being able to play the sport we love, but got the education and the opportunities, that we've made it in life. And it's now our turn and our time to give back and self-sustain women's sports. Yes, we want support from everybody. Yes, we want support from the media. We want the media to cover women's sports more equitably. That's all true. That's all well and good. But we also have an obligation to lift ourselves up. And I think that's the other statement I wanted to make with this. And this is not just on my part, but it's on behalf of all the alumni at UCLA, is that we are reinvesting in the success, not just of UCLA, but hopefully of women's sports and softball more generally.
Yeah, and to just kind of piggyback on that, one thing that Shelly is really great at emphasizing with the alum is it's not just financially. Not everyone has the ability to give back at the level or magnitude that Shelly has. And a big part of our Bruin bubble is it's financially, or it's coming back. It's being present. It's being mentors. It's being fans. It's being big sisters. All of those things. And like I say, she becomes such a great example of leadership on how you can give back with gratitude. And the statement that she made also inspires, as she just said. But that's what the Bruin bubble is so special. what I believe. We take pride in continuing to come back and give back in any capacity, and everybody is at different levels, and we applaud that they feel comfortable coming back to the Bruin family, and all the alum take care of all the alum. And Shelly, you can kind of talk to that on how different generations of Bruins, you actually have grown the Bruin family and your ability to get to know all of them.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about the bubble and how the alumni come back and help the student athletes, but equally as valuable is the friends that I've made who played in different decades, also later decades, because they're all younger than me at this point, but all the people that played after me, I mean, friends in all the decades, is just invaluable. It's fabulous. And I wouldn't, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about how we all benefit from each other, not just our relationship with the student athletes and with the coaching staff. So yeah, it's fantastic. And as we alluded, I just recently moved back to Los Angeles from another part of the state. And one of the big reasons I moved back to LA is because of my friends and my networks here through the Bruin bubble. So it truly is. And every program says this, and every program has this, and absolutely it's true. But we have it as well. And that's that family experience that goes, again, as Kelly alluded to, almost 5 decades.
It sounds to me like you both feel this is the next step now for women's sports. You know, college football has so many boosters and donors of alums that just support football. And I've always felt like softball can be that way as well. But we're still kind of behind a little bit. Is that the sense you all get, have been around the game so long that now it's time for, you know, not to, instead of depending on media and, like you said, and other people to support softball, hey, support from within. And you all have been the standard, the Bruin bubble. Everybody knows what the Bruin bubble is. All the alums from all the different, they are usually on the stands yelling, if you will. We see them, or supporting, as you mentioned. Is that the next step here for women's sports, especially in softball?
Well, you know, what I'd like to add to that is as Shelly said, the ability, first of all, the 50th anniversary of Title IX, and for us to recognize the opportunity that we were afforded. You know, there were so many that wanted the opportunity and were great softball players and wanted to be able to have the opportunity to play ball and go to a school like UCLA. But here we live with this wonderful opportunity, some of which don't even realize just where we were before. But in our 50th anniversary, you have the ability to stop and really look back and say, wow. So as a result, one thing that I love to do also is I'm a role model in that I'm the head coach of UCLA, awesome, but I'm also a wife and a mother. And so you can be the leader in your household as far as the abilities to attain success, be able to be a working mother and still be successful and have the ability to give back. So there are a lot more successful, powerful women that are doing it all. And I want to be able to continue to celebrate that. You know, and as a result, I'm hopeful that we have the ability, like Shelly, to be able to share and lift up programs with your success, understanding that word gratitude is big. You know, there are a lot of things that we're afforded today because of Title IX that has allowed us to become these successful women and have careers and things that we're passionate about, and still have the ability to, like I said, be a mother and a wife. You can do it all, but a big part of that is all about, you know, what Title IX has provided us, just simply the opportunity to pursue these goals and dreams. So yes, I see it being the future in that we are more successful, more educated. We are leaders. There are so many different opportunities in the working world now for all of us as females. You know, networking is a big part of it. But coming back and being able to continue to lift up UCLA softball has been a big thing that we take a lot of pride in as alumni, that they want to continue to succeed as success. And they also want the quality experience for the Bruins. Like they want to have the same experience. And a big part of that is being able to provide resources, and I think that's probably our biggest strength is aside from softball, is the networking, the alumni, the ability to mentor and big sister, to be able to share their experiences to help them grow and be more successful later in life.
And Eric, you started by asking kind of the motivation. One of the other motivations that's related to your question is, this is not just about UCLA in my mind. Yes, it's a grant that's going to UCLA. Yes, it's going to lift up the Bruins. But I sincerely hope that this is an example and can help others invest in their programs around the country. I want nothing more. Obviously, I'm competitive, won my own natty, want the Bruins to win. Yeah, we get that. But I would like nothing more than to see other programs and other alumni at other schools follow suit and then reinvest and become, as we already talked about, self-sustaining and lift ourselves up Not saying we shouldn't continue to try to get outside support. That's not my point. But my point is, let's get to the point where we can, as you said, Eric, this is the next phase of women's softball. I mean, we all know the sport's exploding. You're the media expert. You see the numbers, right? It's exploding in terms of popularity. This is just a logical next step of us continuing our growth as a mature sport.
And I think you both would agree. This goes even beyond softball. This goes to women's sports in general. I mean, Shelly, you and I have talked on the phone because I covered the UCLA UCF volleyball match and the NCAA tournament match for another site I work for, and Mac May is an incredible player. The UCF head coach Todd Deschanel says she's going to be a future Olympian. I mean, the volleyball program's been tremendous there. The women's soccer program, I know Coach Cromwell just left for a project, but they've won a national title. They've had Olympians come out of this. This is just beyond softball. This is bigger picture of women's sports. Volleyball just had their most watched national championship game in NCAA history. People are interested in women's sports, and I think the exposure is starting to get there. The TV coverage is getting there as well. And I think it feels like you both feel now it's the internal, right? That's the next step, right? That's from Title IX. You've seen Title IX grow and the impact it has. What's the one thing you think has to happen next? The next step for not just softball, but women's sports in general?
I would say it's just what we've been talking about. So those of us who were the early years of Title IX, who've had careers, who have generated wealth, who have built wealth, and there's many of us out there, because we all know most women who play sports don't go pro, right? Just like men, you have to actually go and you have a career. And there are so many women out there. I mean, my background is in human resources. It's in large corporations. There are so many women out there who have a sports background, who played sports in college, who now are in a position to reinvest, their wealth in women's sports. And so I do think that, just as happened on the men's side for years and decades, it's that time, and it's the time for those of us who've benefited from it to start that process. And if this gift can start that process, that next step of us reinvesting in ourselves, because let's face it, women control a lot of economic wealth in this country, and we can make a difference by doing that. But again, to Kelly's point, it's not just about the money; it's about investing in the individuals, investing in the student athletes, investing in their experience. And helping them navigate. So one thing that everything's changed about softball since I played, including we used to use a white ball. We didn't wear helmets. It's like a completely different game. But the one thing that hasn't changed is the experience of those 18-year-old kids coming on campus for the first time, their hopes, their dreams, their fears, their insecurities. They're the same things that we were feeling. They're the same, especially at an elite program like a UCLA. They're highly recruited, they've made it, but sometimes, there's that, oh my goodness, am I good enough to be here? Can I make it? How do I deal with this pressure? Those things are the same things that have been there forever. So we can continue to invest, even if it's not financially, in helping support the growth, development, and mental well-being of those athletes as well. And that's not just a UCLA thing, that's across the board.
Speaking to that as well, when we talk in the bigger picture, as you said, that people are aware of the Bruin bubble. A lot of people will say this, of course you guys have culture, because culture is a big part of what the Bruin bubble is all about. Of course you have culture, you win. But I always flip that and say we win because we have culture. And to be able to talk to everybody, because they'll say, oh, that's just the Bruin bubble. And I speak a lot about, but there is a model behind how you're able to do this. And I think a big part of it is, there's people that give for different reasons. They can financially donate. They have the means to do it. They want a naming opportunity. They want to sometimes be anonymous for whatever reason. But I think when people understand that they can make a difference, and they feel as it, they feel valued in any capacity, and that's being able to reach out and to invite them back, not just to ask for money, but to have them come and join and be a part of whatever it is that you want to call that. So we are fortunate that we have a model, as Shelly said, she played in the 80s. I played in the late 80s into the 90s, but we have Bruins throughout every decade that can pull together. Everybody that has played sports has been a part of a team. And if you were to get that team together and have a reunion, that would be fun, because those are your teammates, you had experiences, and that would be like, oh yeah, that'd be fun to see where they are now. But to just go back to a school when you've only been there for possibly 4 years can be uncomfortable. It may not be something that you want to rush back to, or how do I do that? Or that's awkward because I haven't been a part of the program. So I really strongly encourage, in order to create that culture, just reaching out, inviting back, getting the alumni to collaborate, connect, bond, and being able to, then they reach out also to be able to create that culture that people want to come back no matter when you play. It's not about your teammates. It's about being a part of something that, and you remember the memories come back and everyone comes back. So having people in every decade, different teams, whatever it was, bring people back and make them feel a part of something allows for people to, like Shelly, to be inspired to say, you know what, I want to give back, because she is embedded. I mean, she can come up to the field and jump out and do fun goals, or she can travel us on a road trip, and she's with us because she enjoys to be a part of us, even though she played in the 80s. And I think that culture, and when we look into Title IX and we want females to be able to come back and help lift up programs, I strongly encourage everybody to reach out and make sure to remind them that they were a part of something special, and they can still make an impact today, decades later, that also can help them, feel as if they're making a difference, but it inspires those that are currently there and reminds them of why they chose to go and play collegiate athletics to, win, hopefully, but ultimately get that degree, because professional sports for softball is not the only avenue post it. So get after that experience, and then go be successful in the real world. But you always want to come back home to something that feels good and help be a part of continuing its success. So that model, whatever it looks like, being able to bring people back, invite them back, have them share in the experience, understand that they are part of the culture, is something that motivates everybody to want to be a part of something that's special. I don't even know why I'm doing it, but I'm in. That's the Bruin way. Like, I can pick up the phone and we can do things, and boom, people will come back and support, or they'll reach out to others and support, because our networking is so strong. It's like we call it, our Bruins buy in. Like, it's almost a little bit of blind faith, a little bit of crazy, but it's just, if it means we're going to help UCLA, we're dialed in. And I'm so grateful for that. And a big part of it is my coaching staff has been a part of this from the 80s through today. We have, but that's not the only reason. We reach out and we really keep them involved, and we show how much of a difference they have made in our program. So that's what I would suggest to everybody, is don't think it's just the Bruin bubble. People could go, the Bruin bubble. Do just the opposite. Create your own. But it takes effort and follow through, and being able to create something that people want to value and be a part of.
How much, Coach, do you talk to your players about the history, about Shelly Carlin, the 82 team and everything? Because that's a big part of it. I was a history major, so I love history and I like looking back. But I do worry about, like, the next generation. Do they appreciate the history, and how much of a responsibility is it on someone like you to pass that along and tell them about it?
Oh, absolutely. And that's something that, in everything that I am fortunate to be a part of, when I have a TV opportunity or a post-game interview or things like that. I mean, for me personally, thanking Sharon Backus and Sue Enquist and all the Bruins that have come before me. But beyond that, we talk more. So to answer your question, absolutely. I always talk about the formers. Annie Myers-Drysdale was a former great, and she's still part of Bruin family, but we talk about all of them, like just your ability to understand the history and tradition of what makes UCLA so great. Coach Wooden is something that we all, we still live by, the Coach Wooden way, and we have so many greats in the history of all UCLA. So it's not just softball specific. Definitely, we have a stadium. If you come up to our stadium, our outfield fence is decorated with the greats of every decade. So, we even say, go take a sprint to Stacy Newman on banner number, like there's literal visuals for us to be able to remember those greats that have impacted the program. Shelly Carlin actually came back, and within several of her opportunities to give back, helped me create a wall of fame. So it documents every Bruin that has ever been a part of this program. So the public, we used to have it in our clubhouse, but now the public can come up and be able to see every Bruin from the 70s till today that have played in the uniform, and then all the great accolades, the championships, the All-Americans, the Olympians. But she's created an opportunity for us to share the history, which is exactly what you're talking to, because that is something that is difficult in this generation. They're the here and now, what's happening now on Twitter and what's happening now. But to be able to go back, but that's a big part of who we are. We are all about our history and tradition, and we show gratitude for those alumni that have walked before us. We share it with the public. We definitely talk about it constantly and refer to it, but we also have visuals and constant reminders of those that have walked before us. And that is my job. is to make sure that the history is something that we all value and appreciate.
But we also have a pre-COVID, we would have a living version of the history at alumni events. So we would have an alumni day, either in the fall, usually in the fall, Kelly. And the alumni who were there would gather in the clubhouse with the current team. And we would go around and we would introduce ourselves, and being UCLA, we would say what championship team we played on. So people would get to see and live the living embodiments of the history of the program and meet them and talk to them and storytell around that. So, hopefully post-COVID, we'll be able to do that again. But yeah, that was super impactful, because then the athletes weren't just hearing stories about, Shelly Carlin or Stacey Newman. They're actually meeting them, seeing them, interacting with them, meeting their families, meeting their kids. The Bruin clubhouse, again, pre-COVID, was like a daycare center with all the Bruins and all their babies, running around everywhere. So yeah, that's the other way we make the history really come alive. That's
in February, by the way, Shelly, this year.
Okay.
Stevensburg in February.
There you go. And of course, we're talking anniversaries. 40-year anniversary of that 82 national championship. I'm
Absolutely.
sure that'll be honored. Shelly, tell us a little bit about that 82 national title there, because you had some great players. You were an academic All-American, but you had a great team there. And look, you helped pave the way for the future national championships that would come your way. But just tell us about the 82 national championship.
Yeah, so that was the first NCAA championship awarded in softball, which was, just fantastic for us to be able to win the first one. All I have to say about that team, Tracy Compton and Debbie Doom.
Yeah.
So if you know anything about softball, all you have to know is you had Tracy Compton and Debbie Doom on the same team. Two very different pitchers, very different styles, but phenomenally effective. I actually caught Tracy. Tracy was my pitcher. And so we were just dominant. It was a different era. It was, the pitching rubber was 40 feet, not 43. The balls were white. The bats were dead. So it was really 1-0, 2-1 kind of games. But that team, I remember the fall practice. I remember telling some friends we're going to win it this year, because you just had a feeling with the pitching that we had, the dominant pitching. So, and then by the way, we also happen to have two Olympians on the team, Dot Richardson and Sheila Cornell Dowdy. So you have Tracy and Debbie and two Olympians. I was just lucky to be along for the ride, calling pitches. Back then we got to call our own games. So that was awesome. But yeah, it was a dominant team, didn't score a lot of runs, but didn't need a lot of runs. We get to the championship, and it was, Debbie dominating. Tracy was a little bit injured, a little nagging injuries here and there, but it was one of those all pitching, timely hitting, great defense kind of teams. As I said, when you have Olympians on the roster, it's we didn't know they were going to be Olympians at the time, but everybody knew that they were pretty special.
Doesn't sound like that much has changed, Coach, right? Key, good pitching, hitting, Olympians on the team.
No, the history of the program. We've always had the pitching, the ability to have some of the greatest pitching, which we all know, defense wins championships. But one thing that, and not to take away, I was a product of wanting to go to UCLA because UCLA was the school, and it was a very West Coast dominated sport, and UCLA was the school, and obviously there were others. But where we are now, the sport has grown from coast to coast. You have the Power Five, which wasn't existent back in the day. There was talent being developed from coast to coast. It is no longer a SoCal dominated sport. So it's exciting once again to be able to say that we're sustaining excellence here in 2022, when 40 years ago was our first championship and UCLA was dominant. And that's probably what makes me most proud. I'm part of the 30-year anniversary of the 1992. And yes, we're going to recognize both of the 82 and the 92 championship teams this year. But that's literally what makes me most proud. Is here we sit in 2022, still having opportunities to be able to get after the opportunity to win a championship, because it's not guaranteed. I was so fortunate. Shelly and I got to be a part of a decade. The 80s was all UCLA and into the early 90s. So I won 3 championships as a player. And it was because we had the top pitchers in the game. Lisa Fernandez, she had the top. And then I also had him in the 90s. Lisa Fernandez, Lisa Longacre, Heather Compton, Dee Dee Wyman, Tiffany Boyd was a freshman for us at the time. They were the Honda Broderick Award winners, just like we are today with Rachel Garcia being able to do the same. So Yeah, and I'm fortunate when I say I have the best job in the world. They're not just phenomenal pitchers, but great representatives of UCLA. We're able to compete, get that degree, and be able to, really help promote our sport. Rachel Garcia being the back-to-back Honda Cup winner. Eric, that is big time because every sport, every female sport gets a Honda award winner, and then they pick one female athlete to be the first cup winner or to be the Honda Cup winner. And I'm so proud because I teach the girls this history that we've only had 5 female athletes in the history of UCLA athletics win the cup, which is the overall best female athlete. Annie Myers-Drysdale, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, Lisa Fernandez, Natasha Watley, and Rachel Garcia back to back. So those names are obviously phenomenal, but to have Rachel Garcia win it back to back and have it be a softball accolade for the Honda Cup speaks volumes of where softball is today. So I'm really proud that we're continuing to have that history and tradition of being able to represent the best female athlete, and even more proud that it's been a softball player 4 different times, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's incredible. I was not going to sell you short. I was going to bring up the 92 anniversary as well. So you beat me to that. But that's one of the things I've been impressed about you and your program is you've always been able to set up your players for success beyond UCLA after softball, but also like with the Olympians. Like last year, obviously you had Rachel Garcia was injured. You had Bubba Nichols had the injury. And you always brought up the Olympics. You knew that was very important. And you would have felt terrible if they would have missed the Olympics. So you always had their best interest in mind. You didn't rush them to come back to help you play. That year was about the bigger picture. And I've always felt like you all are a great example because you've had mentors. Elisa Fernandez has been in the Olympics. You have people you can go to. You know what it takes. Just talk about that a little bit, about that mentoring of your athletes.
First of all, I truly believe that, and we've been raised that there's no greater honor than to represent your country, or have the opportunity to participate in Olympic Games. So yes, that's always the goal. And we've had so many different levels of people that have redshirted, Olympic redshirted, people that have even passed up their senior year, just, to have that Olympic opportunity. But one of the biggest statements that I was so proud of is during this whole interesting COVID year and Olympic year and everyone in this really interesting timing, both Rachel and Bubba had an opportunity. They were given the choice. They could come back and play in their senior year, or they could go on tour with the Olympic team and get ready for the Olympics. And I completely supported. I was like, this, please come back, but also wanted them to be able to make sure they gave themselves the best opportunity to compete for that on that Olympic starting lineup. And when they came back and wanted to finish out their senior year, it was such a great moment for us, that it meant that they wanted to finish with their Bruin sisters, still preparing through our collegiate season for the Olympic opportunity. So that was a proud moment, but we always keep our eye on the prize that when you have that opportunity, we fully support that, and then just recently, what I love is that we have those opportunities for Bruins to continue to be a part of USA. Right now, we have current players that are at the USA tryouts: Megan Farimo, Leah Jordan, Maya Brady, and then obviously Bubba, Rachel, Allie, and Delaney. All of those Bruins are there, but our current girls are missing the first week of school and practice. But they also, and once again, 100% go get after it and have that opportunity. But I want to be able to always say is you can do it all. You have the opportunity to play at UCLA. Obviously, you're getting after a valuable degree. We want you to play USA softball. If there's a pro opportunity you want them to play, we've even been very fortunate to have more girls go play in Japan, to play in the Japan League. Those are the opportunities in softball that they have, and we encourage them like no other to do it all. But to get back to your point, we have so many mentors that they give them the opportunity to say how to do school, how to organize your schedule, how to train, what to expect at training camps, understand the responsibility of being USA and UCLA. And that big sister group, as far as being able to mentor them, is a big strength because it gives them a little bit of confidence of being more prepared when they go to a USA opportunity. And I think 100% you nailed it. We've had decades of that. Dot Richardson, who was the shortstop in the first Olympic leadoff hit game, the home run for the first gold medal game, is an alumni that still comes back and gives back. And she's coaching at another Division I school still, but she's still a passionate Bruin that will always come back and mentor the Bruin. She was also an 80s player. These are the mentorships, the big sister, the Bruin bubble, that will continue to help and support our current girls, which once again is a strength to our program, is we have that networking family opportunity to help each other.
And help them beyond softball too, right, Shelly? Beyond
absolutely, softball. Absolutely. And I was just going to, kind of give Kelly some accolades here because she doesn't talk about this enough. Dot obviously played shortstop when I was in school, but we don't talk enough about the UCLA coaching tree, about how many former Bruins are out there coaching. Dot's clearly just one who's a head coach, but there are so many out there who, and I think it's nothing but good for the sport of softball. Yeah, we're competitive. Yeah, we want to win championships, but we all benefit when softball benefits. We all benefit when the SEC gets strong, when the Big 12 gets strong. We all benefit when the conferences get better. Everybody, the sport benefits, we benefit. And so, I want to make sure that message comes through because, this is about something that's bigger than all of us. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than Kelly and the program. It's about the sport generally and all the opportunities so that, hopefully in a few years' time, Eric, you're talking to some other alumni who came from, modest backgrounds and means that was able to give back to their program. That's my sincere hope for what this can do for the sport of softball.
Yeah, definitely. I think Lisa Fernandez is one of our biggest assets when it comes to USA Softball. She's such a respected former Olympian, but she helps the girls with their mental approach, their training. She can communicate if there's needs or questions to be able to just best give advice. And I think, she was a big part of Rachel's mental strength as far as just helping prepare her for both, UCLA and USA. Lisa is such a role model for softball, but had such an extensive, experience with USA. And then on top of it, Trya Flowers, who was on this past Olympic staff, also is a Bruin, and she'll come back and give back. But we're fortunate to be able to have that opportunity to communicate, get clarity, make sure that everyone's on the same page of expectation. And I think those things that are a little bit more familiar definitely help in the bigger picture of inspiring our Bruins to want to be a part of it. Definitely.
Well, and you're right. And you mentioned that coaching tree, Shelly. Of course, Dot Richardson's at Liberty's done a great job there. Stacy Newman now is the head coach at San Diego State. She's been on that staff for a long time. Talked to both of them. And of course, Coach Flowers is at Loyola Marymount. That's just a small sample size of this coaching tree that you're right. And I think the history of the game is something too that the media, the television in particular, can kind of spend more time on. We see that in for example, men's basketball. Every time there's a UCLA men's basketball game, John Wooden comes up at some point during the telecast. It probably helps that Bill Walton's probably in the broadcast, but that's a whole other story. But I do feel like that's another avenue that's the next step for women's sports I like to see. And from a television broadcast, I do this on my broadcast and on the show. We talk about the history, but it is something that could be brought up a little bit more, like a Debbie Doom, that a lot of people may not be aware of, and how great. And people may not be aware some now that Lisa Fernandez was arguably the greatest player of all time during her time. They know her now as the coach, kind of like John Madden now. I feel like she's in that level. So I do feel that that's kind of the next step from a history. I want to ask you both this, because you both were obviously athletes, and then Coach, you've been an assistant head coach. There's now name, image, likeness. Is this good for women's sports? Do you have any concerns about it? What's your reaction now, Coach, starting with you, about name, image, likeness?
One word, it's opportunity. And I look at it as exactly that. We are learning about the different things. I'm actually on several committees and have spoken to several coaches across the country. And the interesting thing for me is Ed O'Bannon, who was a UCLA basketball player who fought for this, back in the 90s, and lost the opportunity. He was his name, image, and likeness was used in the video game. He wanted to be able to be compensated for it, and he lost. So we celebrate this today, and I just spoke to him about it, on being able to create this opportunity for the athletes to use their name, image, and likeness, knowing very well that a big part of their name, image, and likeness comes from their ability to play on the collegiate stage. But simply being able to have the opportunity, I think, is nothing but a bonus. We're learning right now. There are things that are going to definitely impact everyone. Things when it comes to team dynamics. If you have a Rachel Garcia who's going to get a lot more opportunities than some of your other players, how do you manage that culture? There are opportunities within schools. Certain sports may get more opportunities than others, or the NCAA is working closely with how to make sure that we're doing things that are not excessive, or putting athletes in a position to be taken advantage of, investing or actually committing to bad deals that could put them, connected with resources that may not represent what they're about. But bottom line, in the beginning phases, that's why I say the one word is it's about opportunity. We're going to learn which directions are best, but for right now, the athletes have the ability to go out and promote themselves using their name, image, and likeness. And for us as schools, we want to provide education. We want to provide direction. I have alumni like Shelly being able to advise the best ways to be able to help. And a big part of that Shelly, I'm gonna let Shelly talk to, is how valuable it is to understand how much your brand can make a difference when it comes to name, image, and likeness. These are the things that my alumni are coming back and sharing so that those athletes can benefit from this opportunity.
Absolutely. I'll say two things. One, to what Kelly was talking about, we've developed with a couple of alumni, softball alumni, one of whom is an employment attorney, and I and a few others have developed a curriculum around all the things that student athlete needs to know about name, image, and likeness. Everything from, as Coach says, about brand and personal brand and developing your brand, how to leverage social media, but also the stuff that nobody really talks about, like, ooh, how do I pay taxes? I'm going to have to pay taxes on this. Should I form my own corporation? So we've developed a curriculum that we're offering to the softball team about how to navigate this NIL world. So I absolutely agree. It's an opportunity, but with opportunities, you just have to be aware that sometimes you're going to make mistakes, and our job as big sisters is to be there to give them the tools they need to navigate this. The other thing I'll say from a longer term is I actually think this is going to be fabulous for women's sports, because if you look at the influencers on social media, women athletes do a lot better in social media than male athletes do. So, I mean, if this is an opportunity to generate economic value and to actually, reap the benefit of that economic value on the part of women athletes, that is only a good thing. So I think it's going to help the whole exposure, popularity of women's sports generally over time. But there will be some growing pains. And as I said, I think programs are well advised to help make sure the athletes have the tools and resources to navigate.
No doubt. And I spoke to a compliance person at a major conference that I know of very well, and they were telling me the three sports that have been the most demand when it comes to name, image, likeness opportunities have been football, men's basketball, softball.
That's awesome.
That speaks volumes here, Coach, right? I mean, there's interest there. And for softball players, unfortunately, they don't have the opportunities like a football player does or men's basketball at the next level. So in a lot of ways, this is the most biggest level for them in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I think I definitely, like to be able to talk about, when you talk about the history, ESPN has come into our world that has really gotten into the living rooms of a lot of people. Like, people have fallen in love with the sport, and we're an exciting sport. As Shelly said, back in the day, white ball, big, heavy bat, shorter distance. Now we're more of a very exciting, offensive, fast sport with a different type of athlete. So we're getting opportunities to be promoted. And then on top of it, like Shelly also said, the females have the ability to market themselves. But I think the popularity of the sport is all-time high. Our viewership is there. They're promoting on social media. There's relevance. I mean, Rachel Garcia being lifted up as the best female athlete. So there's a lot of prestige behind the sport of softball, and we're still growing. So the opportunities right now for the softball world's huge. It's off the charts. Programs are exploding. Support is there. Viewership is there. Social media is there. We have great role models. Our history, when you talk about the Olympics and the medals that we've been able to win as a sport, it's an exciting opportunity to be a softball player. And once again, it goes back to Title IX. These opportunities weren't there, but now these athletes in this day and age today are reaping the benefits of the opportunity that was created to even have women's softball be an opportunity at the collegiate level to be supported, budget wise, facility wise, all the opportunities. These girls are just living a dream without even realizing that back in the day, Shelly and I were a little bit apart, but I had to pay for my first pair of sweats at
Oh
UCLA.
my goodness. This is why Kelly, now you understand why I get thrilled to death when you give me a UCLA shirt or sweats or whatever, because we didn't have that, right? So just the fact that we actually get gear is just phenomenal. I also want to make another point because, Eric, as you know, I'm a fan of your podcast. I think the popularity of the sport has also been enhanced by the work that you do and others who have podcasts about really helping people understand. And what I love about what you guys do is you go beyond just the UCLAs and the Oklahomas, and you really touch the people who play, the majority of people who play who don't have the privilege of playing at a Power 5 school. So kudos to you guys for the role you're playing in driving the popularity of the sport. We really appreciate what you do.
I appreciate that. It's a, the reason we do the podcast is gives a platform.
Right.
I've always wondered, like, wow, I wonder what Kelly I thinks about this or that. Well, now you have an opportunity. First time I had Coach, we talked about instant replay. And now here we are, Coach, a few years later, and now we finally are to that point. What's been kind of your reaction here? So, instant replay here.
Yeah, I haven't experienced it yet, but I can tell you we've definitely been on the positive and the, not so positive side of those critical plays that we wish we would have had the right call being made. But in the future, it is happening in postseason in 2022. And I'm in the process right now of working to actually bring it to our Easton Stadium, our facility, so we can practice it. Because I'm not experienced yet in all the different things that you could potentially, whatever it's called, be able to review, the
challenge.
Yeah.
Challenging a replay. Yeah.
Hello. So I need to practice this clearly. So we want to be able to have the ability to practice this because it's a postseason thing. And I've been on Zooms with baseball and I've been Zooms with other sports, and we're trying to figure out, but the best part about it that I think, and speaking with the umpires as well, is all of us agree that we've worked so hard throughout our entire seasons, every team, and to be able to be a top 8 and actually I'm going to take it back. It's starting at regionals. They're going to have instant replay at regionals, supers, and postseason. And a big part of that is everyone works so hard to get that opportunity at top 64 and get into postseason. Man, you want the right call. We understand that there's a human factor with umpires, but when it comes down to those critical ends your season or pushes you forward one more step, we all want the right call. So I look forward to that. We're going to learn through it. That normal, you're out and the inning's over, to replay. Oh, she's safe. We're going to keep going. So there's going to be an added element to the game that you're going to see. We're going to see it live in postseason this year. But I think I look forward to the bottom line, no matter what the highs and lows, or being on the plus side of it or the not so great side of it. We want the right call. And, if those teams have worked hard and have earned the opportunity to do all they can to take that next step forward, because it is so difficult in postseason to get to be that top 18. Obviously, to be a national champion is putting things all together. Got to have some talent, got to have a little culture, you got to have some luck to be able to get there towards the end. And this will help take away that gray area of being unlucky, at a really critical time.
Do you see this being part of maybe Pac-12 conference games down the road? I know the SEC is going to be implementing that for their regular season this year. Is that something that's been discussed for the future?
Absolutely. And I think every conference is going to take it at a different level. We actually had at a conference, at our NFCA conference, had pushed the SEC to experiment with it. To experiment with, the instant replay at their facility. So they're a little ahead of the game because all the Power 5 said, you guys experiment with it, get back to us. So all the other conferences now are working towards implementing it as well. And we've been on Pac-12 calls specifically for us and talking about, we're in the which way do we go, which system, which camera, what are we going to do to be able to find the best opportunity. But absolutely, the Pac-12 is right there, which is why I'm working right now, different positions for cameras and learning, because I want to do it before we get to postseason. But yes, it'll be, I can't say it's not mandated for every conference because it just became a rule, but I believe it will be an opportunity for everyone to have the opportunity to be able to practice that before they get to postseason. I know ESPN is going to come in and do everything for regional supers and for the World Series. I've already spoken to them. So it's something that if you want to practice it in 2022, it has become experimental in the Pac-12. For others, they're already ready to go. And the sport it's in the beginning phases. So I think you're going to slowly start to see it become the norm at every facility.
And this is great for the student athletes. And I know, Coach, in the past, when you've been on with me, you've talked about that. Why can baseball have it? And we can't, right? That's the example of what we've been talking about here. The experience for the women athletes. They should be able to have the instant replay. And facilities has been a big part of that, too, because a lot of this depends on facilities. And we're seeing facility upgrades explode in softball because of the popularity. It's become a sport that people want to attend.
Yeah, 2 points. One of them is absolutely, we always want, and baseball and softball are really synonymous in college, due to Title IX opportunities. Baseball did get ahead of it, and they had instant replay before us. But I think a big part of it, that's one thing. Yes, we want equal opportunity for baseball and softball, and I believe there's always a push And I'm very close with our baseball coach that we always talk about different things. But the second thing is baseball also went towards it, and it adds extra timing to a game. And baseball is already long, right? Softball worked with ESPN to really shorten the game so we could get every game televised in smaller windows. So part of the reason that we didn't really want instant replay was before, not, I wouldn't say it's the reason, but part of the discussion was the added time that it was going to, add to a game. And that affects viewership, that it affects the amount of teams that get televised, because ESPN has a puzzle to put together of how to fit all these games in, which is why softball is viewed more than baseball, because you can fit a 2 hour and 15-minute softball game into a window versus a 4-hour baseball game. And less people will tend to watch a 4-hour game versus a 2-hour softball game. So we're going to add in this timing element. No one really knows how long it's going to take. That's why we want to practice that. But we have kind of hedged a little bit. We're there now. Both have the opportunity, but still, every baseball college doesn't have instant replay on their facilities right now. Also, even though it is a postseason opportunity. So I think both baseball and softball are going to be heading towards a path where it becomes more regular, more familiar. It's going to be a part of the conference play that will lead to postseason and will become part of our sport, as it is in volleyball and football and basketball and these other sports, that it's already a part of their culture. We're not there as much. And we see on Major League Baseball, they have a whole staff. You see the manager look up and it's either do I review it or not. We're not going to have that at the collegiate level. So we're going to have to learn this new protocol of when strategically as coaches, what I want to review and what I'm going to hold off on, because we don't have the eye in the sky that's telling us do it now or do it later. So I look forward to it. It's another strategy, and I'm all about having opportunities to strategize. But once again, it comes back to, for the student athlete, give them the best opportunity to win a ball game and make the right call at the right time, especially in those critical scoring plays.
You're right. And you make a great point. I mean, the flow of the game is the concern. Like, we've seen this in basketball where sometimes they do a replay and it takes minutes. And that could, in softball, that could affect a pitcher. That could affect the timing of things. And you don't want this to be used as a gamesmanship situation. Well, I'm just going to make them review this to try to disrupt the flow of the game and the, rhythm and momentum. And I think it's a great point there. That's not as simple as just, hey, have a replay. How do you do it? What do you review? What do you not review? And you don't want the game to last forever. Because, right, the part of the appeal of the sport is the pace of the game. That's why. Yeah,
exactly. We're in the process of where is the camera going to be? Who's going to review it? How long is it going to take? So we're in that beginning phases of the painful process of trying to figure this out, because viewership is a big part of the experience, right? People are in love with the sport because it's fast paced and it's quick, and we get on and off, and we have rules we implemented in our sport now. There's timing elements. You got to get in and out. You got to deliver a pitch. We got to get on and off the field, and that helps with the viewership, just watching the flow of the game. So nobody likes the review process, I think, in sports in general, because you're like, oh, it's a pause. But then there's a little bit of drama on figuring out what the answer actually reveals. So we're hopeful that we can be efficient within it. And this may be a growing pain year, but I'm prepared. It's whatever happens, and it's just now a rule. So we all have to adjust and figure out the best way to adapt to this new added element to the sport of softball.
Yeah, I think as long as, we don't want to see a game be decided by a bad call.
We've been a product of that at the World Series, and I'm obviously speak with umpires a lot, and there's areas of focus in the rule book, and those areas of focus become overly heightened to the point where you go in the wrong direction with it. Obstruction was a big one. The illegal pitch was a big one. There's so many things. I mean, I had a batter at the College World Series get called out for strike 3 because she took too long in between, taking a deep breath. The umpire called her out for not getting in the box and 1/100. I was like, you just called a batter out in college rules. And the umpire was a mess, but the rules sometimes get pushed so loudly in the umpire's faces that they over umpire and make wrong calls. And we've been a product of that, where, we were eliminated with calls that the umpires told me afterwards were incorrect. And I'm like, I don't want to hear this, but we want to get to bottom line, make the right call. And if it plays against me, that's the game. We want to be able to have the right call being made for these student athletes that, once again, have worked so hard to be able to have that chance to take one step further.
Do you remember when you two met? What was the first time you both met? Do you remember, Shelly, when you met Kelly Kelly Coach, you met Shelly?
Shelly has always been, because we had an assistant coach in the program, Gina Vecchione. Her name was Puppy, and Puppy was teammates with Shelly. And so Shelly's always been relevant in our program since I was an athlete in the 80s and early 90s, as far as relevant in that her name, Shelly Carlin, her name is actually Shelly Aguilar, but her married name, Shelly Carlin, and she stayed with Shelly Carlin. But so I always knew about her because she was the catcher. And once again, I'm a catcher. I was a catcher at UCLA. So I always know all the former catchers at UCLA, a history part of it. So teammate wise, I always heard, and obviously Sue and Chris and Sharon and Puppy always talked about Shelly, but then she would come back at different times. But I can speak to when I really formed the opportunity to meet Shelly beyond knowing her. Okay, have had opportunities right after we won the first national championship as a head coach in 2010. Sue had really engaged Shelly, and I'll let her speak to that. But she said, I pulled together a meeting with Shelly because I'm asking for a big ask from Shelly Carlin. And I said, okay, didn't really know Shelly to the level. Obviously, she's like one of my closest Bruin family members. But I went, and with the ask, Sue said, you're going to sit down and talk to her. So I went and talked to her, and Shelly straight up said, why? Why should I give? And I was like, God, I felt pressure. This is Bruin family, but I wasn't really sure what the answer was. And it was about, once again, I wanted every Bruin player to have the opportunity to be recognized in this program, to carry on this history and tradition of Bruin family. And that's where that was my perception of how Shelly and I got on the same page, because I didn't ask her for a building, or I didn't ask her to just give me more softballs for my budget. I wanted her to help me continue to grow and share this Bruin family, this Bruin bubble with the public. And I'll let her take over from there, because the good news is we got the donation. Go ahead.
So I stopped asking why a long time ago. The answer to that question is really, I've known Kelly obviously because I've watched her play, but at that meeting when she asked, and I asked her why, what we kind of what we realized was we definitely wanted to have everybody who played in this program, not just the Olympians, not just the national champions, the superstars, but everybody, role player, bullpen catcher, whatever, to be able to be recognized publicly for their role in UCLA softball. So that conversation, what came out of that was the wall of champions, or the wall of fame, or whatever we call it, when you come into Easton Stadium, where all of our history is documented. But what also came out of that, Kelly, if you recall, is, I divided the grant up into two parts. One was to fund the wall, but the other was to fund a leadership development program that we called Sustaining Excellence. Yes. So basically from 2014 to the pandemic, I developed with some partners a curriculum. Think about it as if you would take the leadership development curriculum in a company that a high potential employee gets in their early years. And we adapted that to the student athlete, basically to help them understand and apply all the things that they do know and experience as a student athlete, and how those things are going to be the keys to their success after college. 100%. So we did things, we basically helped them understand, self-awareness, understand what they're good at, understand what their development needs are, everything from that self-awareness to resumes, to job searches, to how to deal with conflict. So we had a whole curriculum that we did for, as I said, from 2014 through the pandemic. But the reason for that was I wanted the wall to be the physical representation of the legacy, but the living representation of the legacy are the student athletes that went through the program, including the current Bruins, who've recently just graduated. So that was kind of when Kelly and I first really started to connect. Because before that, I would go to all the World Series games, but I kind of kept a low profile until they came knocking at my door for money, and then I got engaged.
That's pretty wild. I need to hang out with you, Shelly. We're gonna have to meet at some point. You sound like fun to hang out with.
That was huge. You know what? You're absolutely right. And even though the Sustaining Excellence program was somewhat abruptly stopped due to the pandemic and our inability to meet in person, it is still still a big part of our Bruin bubble and our culture. Is, once again, it goes back to the mentorship and the networking. Although we don't have the same curriculum, we are still doing that today with NIL, with resumes.
Kelly, I've been on email with one of your athletes on her resume, and she's her job applications and how to tailor it. And it's even more important now. So with the pandemic, Kelly's got quite a few athletes who are now in a graduate program. And so the opportunities, I'm super excited for the opportunities of those who have used that extra year to get their graduate degree, who are going to just be phenomenally valuable in the workplace. So we do continue, well, not as formally as we had, but we are continuing to work with those student athletes to help them, as I said, kind of figure out job search, figure out what I want to do career-wise, interview practice, help. We also taught a course on how to negotiate salary. Kelly wanted to join that, but I didn't figure that was a good idea for me to help that. I don't think Martin Jarman would like that too much if I helped one of his coaches learn how to negotiate salary.
So, and then I would just, if I can, Eric, I'm going to add one more thing. One thing that I think is the best part, being a former alum, being Shelly Carlin, who's donated back, she is such a valuable resource to me. So she was going to the World Series as a fan before. I didn't even know she was there. Like, she didn't talk to me when she was at the World Series in previous years. And then we formed this partnership with Sustaining Excellence, and then obviously brought her closer. Now she helped me get through some really tough times when I was transitioning from an assistant coach to a head coach, as just a mentor, as a leader, as a strong female, of how to manage and take a little bit of corporate into leadership in athletics with a mindset. There's a reason that she's successful and has the ability to give back. And I have so much respect for that. So I can take off, she can come and throw a UCLA softball shirt on and shag balls, or I can actually sit down and get great advice of leadership, which human resources was a big part of her job. And she's worked with C-suite execs her whole life. But that is something that I value, as when I talk about being able to have the Bruin bubble and mentorship and networking. She is one of my biggest mentors as far as being a confident female and being able to help me really navigate this space of this generation, leadership in general, and how I should carry myself being a Bruin alum. But she once again, that's my hope and goal and dream, is that the Bruins continue to create this networking, because strong females, Title IX 50-year anniversary, we're now in leadership roles. We're able to gain more success out there in not just softball, athletics, Olympics, corporate America, medical. We have lawyers, doctors, we have people in LAPD and LAFD. We have them everywhere. And I want them to continue to come back and be role models for our, not just UCLA, but all female athletes, that you can succeed and continue to lead, continue to win, continue to make a difference as powerful females. And it all goes back to the opportunity that we now have as females in all areas. So we celebrate that. And I do want to take a chance to say thank you to Shelly, because she inspires me on just how to represent UCLA softball, not just do whatever it takes to win or have the biggest building or have the most money, but to represent UCLA with class. And I think that's something that's my job. When you talk about my responsibility, Eric.
Kelly's right. Kelly has the best job in the world.
Kelly has
the best job in the world.
And now I'm the Shelly Carlin UCLA softball head coach.
I'm going to hold it over your head.
I've got to represent with class and make sure that I'm doing it the right way, because guess what? Her name is associated with mine. So everything I do is going to go back to her. So, but I wear that proudly and with great respect for the opportunity.
Well, one of the things I'm sure Shelly wants to know about, or she's going to get mad at me if I don't ask, is this year's Bruins. Yep. Obviously, Rachel Garcia, you're going to get asked about Rachel Garcia and Bubba Nichols no longer be there. Two amazing players, part of a great senior class you lose.
Yep.
But you return a lot of players, especially on offense. You got Megan back pitching. You also have added a Lauren Shaw, Iowa. Just talk about your team a little bit. Obviously, you got January and work before the season, but just give us an outlook about your team this year.
So first of all, let me go to, yes, Rachel and Bubba graduated. And the biggest question I always ask, oh my gosh, so-and-so graduated. And the best part about my job is, yes, people graduate. Rachel, Bubba, Lisa Fernandez, Tasha Watley, Stacey Newman, I can go on, which creates another opportunity for a new Bruin to step up. So the one thing that I'm really excited about is there was a lot of championship experience on this team. Megan Farimo and Holly Acevedo also had opportunities to pitch. Yes, Rachel was the horse for UCLA, but they were there. They had that experience, and now it's their opportunity, which I'm really excited about. Lauren Shaw is a graduate school transfer lefty with a nasty off speed that has not only added, obviously she's going to help us with her tools in the circle, but she also brings a maturity and an energy about her that we're really excited that we get her for 2 years. So, I don't know if we know the history of when the last time we had a southpaw in the circle, but Lauren's
going to
gonna-
ask you that. I was going to ask you that.
It's been a while. So I'm excited for her because she's not starting her freshman year. She's been through 4 years of college, and she's so excited to have this opportunity to work with Lisa and wear the 4 letters, that we're just excited about seeing her compete. But then you also have this great foundation of, the center of my team is really my senior class. And those girls have played since their freshman year on that stage. So you have shortstop Inouye Perez, who is one of the most phenomenal athletes we've had in the program. Aaliyah Jordan is actually in her 6th year after she's had some really interesting challenges with injury, but I believe Aaliyah is one of the most feared hitters in the game. And so she has a maturity about her and an experience that is going to be it's a great opportunity for someone like Amaya Brady to learn from the Aaliyah Jordans on how to manage pressure, expectations, and situations. Kinsley Washington is the unsung hero. I think Kinsley is such a center of our program. She's a phenomenal athlete. She knows the sport, high IQ, represents in the classroom and in the community, but she is just a constant, very positive, very team oriented. And although she doesn't need the spotlight and she hasn't received the accolades being surrounded by superstars, Kinsley is such a big name in our program. Then we were fortunate to get Lainey Wiz, who is the transfer from LMU, but she was a corner that I put behind the plate. You're going to see Lainey behind the plate this year. Just that great of an athlete, has a great rapport with the pitchers. Her and Alyssa Garcia will be doing the catching behind the plate. But then you also, like I mentioned earlier, Maya Brady is somebody that's pretty special. First team, freshman All-American, can hit the ball a ton. And her future is exciting, but she is a feared hitter already, has proven to come through in big moments. But I think the next part is speed. We have speed in our game this year. Kelly Gooden, she was on the junior national team and won gold, had a great freshman year, has always been a consistent, you almost take for granted the ball she catches out there because she's so fast and she has so much range that it's just an expectation. Kelly's going to be looking to be a leadoff for us this year. So all of a sudden, it's been Bubba and Bree and Aaliyah and Rachel and all these names. And I think Kelly, the speed factor is going to be big for us. This year. We have Kelly, we have Anna Vines, who's going to be back in the lineup after injury. We have a freshman, a sophomore, Tessa and Savvy. We have some speed and lefties and power. So there's a lot of excitement in the lineup of speed and power, which is a big part of what UCLA has been about, but it always comes back to a little bit of the defense, right? And we have definite versatility. We have versatility and depth. A lot of different people can play a lot of different positions, which I think is going to make it exciting. And we like to rotate people. It's a big part of our culture to let everyone be a part. You're not going to see the same lineup the entire time. So when something happens, you have the ability to put people in different positions. So versatility is always a strength, speed, power, experience. And I can't wait for Megan Framo to get back in the circle in 2022. She is such an amazing team player that the girls love to play behind. She is a horse. She is positive. She's fierce. She's learning and growing. And I can't wait to see what she's going to do in 2022 because she's developed with Lisa. She came in rise kind of curve, and she now has rise curve drop off speed change with the experience of wanting to continue to get back out there. And guess what? Now it's her turn because we had a small peak of it in 2020. Rachel and Bubba made the Olympic team, and we went from winning a natty to Rachel and Bubba made the Olympic team. We're like, ooh, yeah, we're happy for them. But it was the country celebrated like, oh yeah, take those two out. And it gave an opportunity for Megan Framo to step up. And I couldn't be more proud of what she did in 2020. Shortened season, but she got after some games, but gave us great excitement for the future. So here we are. Megan's healthy. Megan's with USA Softball right now. Megan's going to come back and be a big focal, and she's only a junior. So I'm really excited about what Megan Framo is going to bring. And a big part of it is she's such a phenomenal team player. The girls love to play behind her. She has a work ethic like no other. It's going to be a fun year behind her. But we're going to have to manufacture runs, and I think you're going to see it 2 different ways. We are going to run, and we are going to have some power. But the experience is probably, and versatility is the strength of UCLA softball in 2022.
And you usually have new faces that'll contribute right away and contribute to the team's success. You feel that way same this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have where it's unique. This COVID year we have a huge sophomore class, right? It's the freshmen and those COVID, they're in their 3rd year, but they're just technically sophomores. So there's that big class. And then, I'll just say this, Savannah Polomalu is a freshman that I think is going to do some pretty exciting things. She's, you never know. but just from fall ball and just what we've seen, she just came off a national championship in her travel ball organization and was an all tournament player. Quiet thunder, not a real big thing, but she definitely has a softball IQ. So I think people are going to know her name at the end of the year. Not like a Maya who hits balls 400 feet, but has the ability to. She's a softball player. She can hit the ball to all fields. So different versatility. I like it as a coach. Awesome to have so many tools. So my job is not to screw it up, right? Don't get in the way. Just let them play. But I think the fact that we have options is the best part of my job. And I credit all of it to Lisa Fernandez. She is in charge of recruiting, and she's done a great job of bringing in, replacing. You don't ever replace players. You just bring in new people for new opportunity. But she has covered the power, the speed, the pitching, and the defense. And then next year's class, we're arguably the 1 or 2 class in the country because we're going to graduate a lot. But next year in recruiting, we have the top with the top pitcher, we believe, Taylor Tinsley out of Georgia, who's coming. So this year exciting, future's exciting. I do credit Lisa, who is covering the country and getting the best players to represent UCLA softball. And that is what you need. You need to have the talent and versatility to be able to continue to compete for a national championship. And we have all the ingredients. Yes, we don't have Rachel and Bubba, but I can't wait to step up and see who's going to take over in the RBIs and the strikeouts for both of those guys in 2 different categories.
I see a smile on Shelly there. Are you pleased there? You feel free if you got any questions. Here's your last chance to ask Coach questions here.
No, I'm coming out to practice, Coach. Put me in.
Bring your glove. I mean, there's just a great excitement and energy. I think I think the bottom line, we're fortunate to be experienced, Eric, to be able to have the chance to be on that World Series stage for several years. So we have classes that is what they expect, and there's no guarantee, but that expectation level and experience is a big strength in postseason. To be able to have that is something that you have to use to your advantage. And we have several Bruins that have had that experience of being able to understand how to win a regional and a super regional and get to the World Series. Because we've also been on the flip side. When you first get there, you can make the game bigger than it is, and you've got to be able to start settling in. It's a team that plays their game first that has the best chance to win, not who's going to be bigger, better, stronger. That's a mistake, is thinking postseason, you've got to do more. So experience with this team is going to be big in that senior class. They've been on the stage since their freshman year. So I'm going to be really hopeful that they have a great opportunity to get after finishing strong. But like I said, talent, a lot of hard work and culture, but you got to be a little lucky. And that's what it's about, winning a championship. You got to pull it all together at the right time. And it's January, so there is no failure in January. Like, bring it on. We can't wait to get on the field. And Shelly, get out.
I just can't wait. Just good at softball, the best time of the year.
Stay healthy.
Look forward to it.
Stay healthy. And then, Eric, another thing, Bubba Nichols has been on my coaching staff. Did you know that?
No, look at that. You give it. I knew you had Don Slot on your staff, but I didn't know you had Bubba there.
Well, Bubba is a graduate manager for us. So that's the title. She can't actually, technically be in a coaching mode, but she's training and she can be in manager mode, so she can front toss and she can do those managerial duties. But she's going to graduate school for a master's program at UCLA in transformative coaching and leadership. It's a new master's program. She wants to be a coach. And guess what? Bubba has already been offered a job as a major league hitting coach for the Pirates. How about that? Right? And that's how, and then she's obviously USA Softball, and she's obviously going to have opportunities, but and a big part of that is Shelly Carlin. I don't know if I can speak to this, Shelly, but Shelly has helped support, once again, part of her ability to give back to the program has helped me in those areas to fund graduate positions. And Bubba is a recipient of that. But great things on the horizon for Bubba. And she has so much opportunity. She is right there in the heart of her prime, pro, coaching, USA. She's got it all going on right now, and she's still a part of us. She was with us all fall, and I never want Bubba to leave. She is an amazing Bruin.
Yeah, Bubba is the epitome of what Bruins are about. And this transformative leadership, transformative coaching master's program is created by none other than
Sue and Chris.
Sue, it all goes back to Sue, yeah.
It all comes back to the Bruin bubble. Yeah, you can't get away from us.
Well, I'll tell you, and Bubba and Rachel have been great representations for the university and for your program, Coach. I mean, with the media, they've been fantastic. And Shelly, I bet you that makes you proud, too, when you see them represent, doing interviews, whatever they've been doing. They represent very well, which is, it's got to make you proud as an alum.
Especially seeing them from the time they were freshmen to the
Yeah.
time they are now. And I'll just close with this story about Bubba. So, Bubba's freshman year, we were talking about success and what it means to be a Bruin and success on the field and success in the classroom. And I remember her after the session asking me, I want to be both. I want to be great on the field and I want to be great in the classroom. Can I do it? I'll never forget that conversation with Bubba because she has done it. And like I said, she's the epitome of what it means to be a Bruin, and we couldn't be more proud.
She's going to do exciting things. Absolutely.
Her and Rachel both. They're going to be tremendous.
Yeah, Rachel right now is going to jump into the coaching world. Also, she's going to, I don't know if she's actually announced it, but she's looking to get into the coaching world as well. But Rachel officially finally graduated from UCLA, which is super exciting because she's been challenged like no other with injuries as well. But both of them finished their undergrad, both of them graduated, both of them have represented. And if you walk into the UCLA Hall of Fame with some of the greatest that have ever played in all sports, Rachel has left her mark. She has 2 big Honda Cups and her name is everywhere. And so proud of how she represented UCLA. And she still, I was just with her not too long ago. She doesn't live too far and she comes back often. So yeah, very, very humble, but also just such an amazing representative of what UCLA is all about. And she goes down in history, one of the greatest ever. She'll definitely be coming back for a Hall of Fame event in the future,
Easily.
which is going to be super fun.
Easily. And both will still be playing. They'll be on Athletes Unlimited too, which is exciting.
Right.
So
Yeah,
we'll still get
that's
to see
right.
them play.
Opportunity. That's what it's all about.
Well, this has been an incredible opportunity for me to talk to both of you together. This has been a blast.
Yes.
We got
thank you.
9 national championships, I believe, are combined in this interview, and I have 0 of those. So it's an honor to both of you. Thank you for doing this. I know it's a lengthy chat, but so many important topics and a great cause, and it's been a blast. And thank you for both of you, what you've done for the sport, and not only for UCLA, but for the game. And awesome. I really think you're both going to be trailblazers, I think, and set the trend for the rest of the sport and helping to grow the game. So thank you both.
Absolutely. Eric, thank you for the platform. I appreciate you and Happy New Year to you. Have a great 2022. All righty.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for all you do.
Shelly, practice this week. I'll get
I'll be
back to
there.
you.